Attorney Marcus.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Bill Marcus, Cornwall, PC 158 Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut, on behalf of Sugar Hollow Associates. And again, this is like deja vu all over again for this commission, because we did file an application before you to do a crossing of the Kissin Brook in the spring, and the commission voted not to approve the crossing of the Kissin Brook. And one of the reasons during our discussion on that application was a concern that the commission didn't have a full site development plan. As we indicated, our real interest before you was to connect the two parcels of this property that were intended to be put together when the state of Connecticut built the overhead ramps for the Danbury Fair Mall in the early 1980s. But be that as it may, we had this long discussion about, well, why would we connect it now? And we said that we would use it as as a parking area for our existing distribution facility and our retail store and restaurant. And the commission also at that time felt, well, but what's going to happen to this property ultimately? And I think I was quite honest with you. And I said, well, it'll someday probably be a shopping center like everything else in the CG20 zone in that neighborhood. Interestingly enough, if you go back historically, that entire neighborhood was IL-40 when it was the Danbury Fair. The airport, the fair, everything down to Worcester Heights, the Castro convertible plant, the Danbury settlers grinding, all of that was IL-40. Well, over the years, obviously, actually the city made a real decision in the late 70s when they approved the mall, and there was a controversy about, well, you're going to take the center of Danbury and move it out to Bacchus Avenue. And of course, that's what you did. Not you, but the city did. And that was not without some controversy, but it happened. And as a result of that, we now have a piece of property here which, though it has always been used as a milk processing and distribution plant primarily, it's also had the restaurant located on it since 1948. Everything around this property has changed to retail, and in fact, a number of years ago, the actual zone of this property was changed from IL-40 to CG20 when, I believe when the Castro convertible plant was changed for the Sports Authority. It was all in the same zoning amendment. So one of the things you asked me was, well, what's going to happen to this property? And I told you that we would develop a plan. As a matter of fact, I told you that I had an architect in Boston who was waiting for me to tell him where the city of Danbury would allow a driveway to go across the Kissin Brook so that he could, in fact, complete his plan. And that's what I was hoping we would accomplish in the spring, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that because there was concern as to, well, what ultimately will happen. What you see before you now is the answer to the question that you asked. What will ultimately happen to this property? We've decided, based a lot upon the issues raised by this commission, to accelerate the completion of a site plan, which of course we've now applied to the Danbury Planning Commission to approve, even though quite honestly the property is still being used as a milk distribution plant facility. It's still being used as a dairy bar, but we've got the site plan which will ultimately develop on this site. For this commission, very little has changed. We've got the same crossing. We've done it with the same bridge so that we don't even have to put a culvert. Interestingly enough, what we've done is we've come up with a plan to clean up the site, which is currently being used for distribution. I just saw quickly some of the pictures from Dr. Danbury's report, and he's correct. I mean, if you go out on the site today, you'll probably see 60 to 70 trucks parked there right now. Tractor trailers, all sorts of equipment. And that's down, because about 3 years ago, we were probably at 100 to 120 pieces of equipment parked and using in and out of this plant every day. So what we're planning to do is to basically decrease, to a certain extent, the intensity of the use by changing the use. We're going to go from what would have been considered an industrial use to a commercial use on the bulk of the property. And Dinus will get into the details of the engineering, but the overall concept is to take a site, by the way, which has been built somewhat haphazardly over the last 60 years. I got to tell you, when my father and Art Kansler decided to build the original building, I don't think they gave a lot of consideration to the swamp. I don't think anybody, quite honestly, in 1947 in Danbury was giving a lot of consideration to swamps or brooks or wetlands. So this site is pretty much a filled site. I mean, it was filled 60 years ago. And in parts it was filled 50 years ago, 40 years ago. But anyway, what you're going to find is a completely filled site on the south side of the Kissen Brook. On the north side of the Kissen Brook, what you have is the remnants of the Danbury Fair parking lot. That's what that was. This is where they park cars for the fair. Wilmerite was originally proposing to put a detention basin on this site, but as a compromise to allow the taking of what I think I've characterized in this commission, a high drive front property on Sugar Hollow Road. A number of years ago, we thought that we would cooperate. Yeah, hear me?
You can move the whole thing off.
Okay. I'll take it off.
Let the record,
Tell me I talk too loud.
the record show Mr. Lees is here too.
As I say, what we did with the trade of our front property, which was good high dry access to Sugar Hollow Road, we took this rear property for future development, and Wilmerite abandoned the the proposal to put a detention pond in here. So they moved, of course, if you've been down to the mall, there are detention ponds all over the place. They just moved this detention pond to a different area. So this stayed as basically an untouched piece of property, which used to be a parking lot for the Danbury Fair, up until we came up with the need to unify it, bring it into, unite it with the rest of the property, and that was the original crossing. And that doesn't change. We still need to do this. What we have shown you, though, is the long-term plan is to construct a building on this site. We do propose to do a curb cut here, but I can't tell you that that is definitely going to happen. The state of Connecticut will have to allow that, actually the city of Danbury will have to allow it, but the state of Connecticut is going to be involved with the fact that the off-ramp that serves the main entrance of the mall has a continuous right-hand turn. There's no stop sign. It's a yield, and you can continually come right off of that, which will go right by this proposed curb cut. So we propose it because we think it makes sense for traffic distribution for the development of the site. However, for the purposes of this application, we need to be able to access the building that we propose to be a bank actually at the moment. And we need to do that across the Kissen Brook as we have indicated before. The plan does not involve any significant loss of wetlands. We've stayed out of the wetlands. We've bridged the wetlands. We do have upland review area. Obviously, we've talked about that before. We are on the banks of the brook, and you have some upland review area. But the beauty of this plan, if for the issues that this commission was worried about, is we'll incorporate with the plan a significant upgrade of the existing facility, i.e., as Dinus will tell you, we're going to put in sophisticated stormwater treatment facilities, et cetera. So right now, what you have is a facility which is pretty much paved corner to corner on the south side of the Kissen Brook without any real sophisticated stormwater management at all. And Dr. Danzer's pictures show you get huge puddles in the back and equipment parks amongst the puddles, et cetera. It's been that way for many years. We'd like to clean it up, and that's the proposal that you'll look at this evening. So that's where we are. Again, we think that the focus of this commission really has to be on the inland wetlands impacts, and planning can look at the traffic flow in the site itself. But we do think that from an environmental perspective, we're not going to do any harm to the Kissen Brook. And by the way, if you've been out there, and most of you have at this point, the Kissen Brook is a drainage ditch which flows intermittently and basically comes out of the culverts under the exit for Super 7 and flows back under the culverts that were created when the city and state rebuilt Bacchus Avenue and in the early 1980s as part of the mall project. So the only place the Kissin Brook really even resembles a brook is this little section that runs behind the Marcus Dairy between the two portions of the property. We'll leave it that way. As a matter of fact, we'll clean it up, which is what we said before, and we'll make sure that it'll look better once we're finished, because we're going to clean up the whole site from an industrial use to a commercial use. Having said that, I'm going to let Dinas talk about the actual plan itself.
Good evening. For the record, Dinas Verbicus, Artel Engineering Group in Brookfield, Connecticut. I too am here on behalf of the applicant for this proposed development or redevelopment of the existing Marcus Dairy site. Couple things I wanted to point out before getting into the development itself is just the differences between what is now and what it could be once it's developed. And if you look to your far right, I have a map of the existing survey, and I added some color to it just to help you understand what it looks like from an aerial view or aerial perspective. I have, of course, bisecting the property in blue is the actual banks of the Kissin Brook, and then just on the outsides of that blue area, I have some green, which is the limits of the wetlands as were flagged by our soil scientist on the site. And then you'll note a large dark area, basically black, which indicates all the impervious or paved surfaces on the site. And you'll also note that in the western edge of the property there's some brownish color, which is basically a gravel and dirt and broken up asphalt parking area. Basically, the site as it is currently has about 6.5 acres of impervious and parked areas on it. The asphalt in some cases comes within 10 feet of the wetlands that it runs along the northern portion of what would be the larger piece of the two parcels right now. And the asphalt runs right clear out to Sugar Hollow Road. Even the dividers that are dividing the parking area for the dairy and the restaurant use are actually paved. So there's very little green on this site at all as it stands. And what we propose to do is to fix that problem, develop it in a responsible manner, remove asphalt on the main site, and of course add some asphalt and impervious surfaces on the Bacchus Avenue parcel. Once all is said and done, the impervious surfaces on this development will be roughly 6 acres. So we're very close on actual impervious surfaces between what's existing and what's proposed. In addition to adding more green space, which when we designed this, we took into account the recommendations of the commission. At the prior hearing, we had asked, what would be a good buffer to keep between the wetlands and anything impervious, and it was suggested to us 10 to 20 feet would be a good place to go. So what we tried to do is we aimed for the 20-foot mark at an absolute minimum, at which point you'll note, in the western portion of the parking, we have an area that's 20 feet and then widens back out. We've got another area here on the northern portion of it, and also on this the Bacchus Avenue parcel. We've got several areas where we come up to 20 feet with our asphalt, but no closer to the wetlands limit. So I think we tried to design this, for the most part, as suggested by the commission. Other things that we're looking to correct from the existing to the proposed would be the runoff. Right now, the runoff from the site either runs into several catch basins throughout the site and discharge either directly into the, there's a brook that was created on the south side of the property. When the highway off-ramp was filled, there was a little gully carved in here, and some of the drainage goes in that direction, but most of it sheet flows off right from the parking area and right into the brook. No treatment, no anything, and it's been doing this for years. With our proposed development, we're looking again to responsibly develop this and through a series of catch basins and manholes, swirl concentrators, deep sumps in the catch basins. We're looking to actually clarify and discharge the stormwater in a manner where it's going to be cleaner than what currently flows out. And rather than have the discharge flowing all across the entire edge of the asphalt, right now we're, again, collecting it and we're discharging it at 2 points on the property. So again, I think further improvements to the parcel itself. In fact, these discharge points are the only direct impacts to the wetlands themselves, as we'll have to excavate a little bit at the edge of the wetlands and the edge of the brook to allow ourselves to put in our discharge pipe, and also some riprap reinforcement to make sure that the channel stays as it should. As with the prior application, we are proposing to cross from one parcel to the other via a bridge. The bridge has been depicted on the plan as having its abutments just on the outsides of the wetlands. So again, there's no direct impact to the wetland in constructing a bridge. It's just putting in the abutments so that we may span it and not fill in as we had initially proposed with our first application. I don't know if you would recall, but we initially were proposing to put in culverts, disrupt the entire channel, lay the box culverts in, and then let the bottom silt in, which is typically done by the state. And what we've done, again, is propose a clear span. With respect to runoff, because we're channeling and collecting and discharging the water at several points, our rate of runoff is increased a little bit over the existing rate of runoff. So what we propose to do is actually capture roof drains, clean runoff from the proposed buildings, and route the roof drains through a stormwater detention system. And once the water is routed through the detention system, that enables us to control the flow so that we don't increase our rate of runoff from the site. So we'll actually decrease a little bit from what currently flows off the site. The site is located with a municipal line right in Sugar Hollow Road, so we'll have municipal water serving the site, and sanitary sewer also will be serving the site. So we don't have to concern ourselves with septics or wells or anything of that nature. Again, basically we're looking to take the existing terminal site and turn it into something that's, again, responsible development in nature with all the surrounding properties. At this point, I can answer any questions that anyone might have.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good. I had asked the last time that we had, you gave us a brief synopsis of the plan. My concern was on the Bacchus Avenue side. I said about a question about flood storage, and I believe the correct terminology is a Tech 1 report, because on the proposal to put that span, you were proposing to put 4 feet of fill on the Bacchus Avenue side, and I'm concerned about flood storage. So if you can give me some kind of impact that will have pertaining to flood storage, be appreciated.
Sure. At this point, during our initial design, we had designed the site as it is in a floodplain. We had designed the sites to make certain that we're not taking away any floodplain storage from the development as a whole. The 100-year flood limit line, I'm going to run my finger across the map so you can follow along. But basically, the 100-year flood line runs generally like this through center of this of the larger parcel, and for the most part, the entire parcel on Bacchus Avenue side. But when we designed our plans, we graded the site such that the buildings themselves would remain high and above the 100-year flood, as well as parking areas adjacent to the buildings and leading to the roads at higher elevations than a 100-year flood, and compensating for the filling by excavating or lowering this western portion of the site and up in through the center of the site as well. So during a 100-year storm event, this too, as the mall does, would flood in the center using the parking area for this shopping plaza as storage for our floodplain or for floodwaters. As far as the actual numbers, I don't have them with me here, but I can certainly bring them with me at the next or at the continuation of the public hearing. I'm assuming it's...
I was under the impression that you're going to lower the front part and more or less level the property off to bring it in unison with the back part, because as you had stated, currently there's all sheet flow that runs to the back. So I thought you were going to lower or level off that the front part of the site, so it would be more or less an even all throughout. I didn't realize you're going to keep the front part as high as it is now.
Perhaps I didn't explain it well enough. We will be lowering a portion of the front, but not all, so it's all flat. There will still be some reveal to the property or relief to the property, and the water will generally flow as it currently does to the west. However, it will be controlled via catch basins.
Okay, if you could come back with the figures at the next meeting, I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Lees? I already told her.
Oh, okay. Just want to get on the public record.
Your arrival was hard to miss.
I snuck in, sir.
Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner?
Is there going to be any additional paving area, and I'm saying to the part to the west? Guidance?
Additional paving to the west. In this area?
Yes.
Yes, there will be. Actually,
Could you grab the microphone, please? Could you grab the microphone, please? This is being taped and they want to record it.
Sorry about that. If you look on the map on the right versus our current map, the existing, again, the dirt, gravel, asphalt area line is generally across the tip of my pen where I'm running it across. So there will be some additional asphalt in that portion. However, we will be pulling away and planting with grass along the western edge so that we will be, once all is said and done, our parking will be a little bit further from the wetlands than the current intrusion.
So if I understand it, then you're going to be doing additional paving, putting a parking lot area within a floodplain.
Bruce, let me try that, because if you go out to the site currently, there's a portion that is not paved, if you mean with an asphalt paving device that's rolled. What it is it's mostly tailings that were just rolled over the years. So it's not considered pavement, but it is, if you and I looked at it, you'd say that's colprovia, but it's a colprovia material that were tailings that were put on the site. So we're improving that by getting rid of the, we'll take out the tailings and put in real pavement.
And where's those boundaries end and where's the grass area start?
I'm familiar with the lot. I did do a site walk.
Okay, can you show them where that is?
I'm sorry, Bruce, I wasn't
Where
sure.
does that area end where the grass starts and these?
Where the tailings? The best way to, well, I can show you here, basically the tailings end roughly along here where my pen is,
So you're saying
drawing a
that
line.
when we go there, well, again, when I revisit the site with the stakes marked, I will notice that wherever you're going to put the parking area in, that will be within the flags and there'll be tailings below.
yes, yes, well, if you go out to the site, there are stakes and wetland flag ribbons. Everything has been staked out in the western portion of the site, as well as on the property to the north of the brook.
I mean, that's the criteria used for making the parking lot that big, is that's where the tailing surface is existing now, and then it transitions into the grass, that wet area in the back.
Correct. And again, our target here was to maintain 20 feet with our asphalt to the wetland line.
That's mostly towards the north side, not towards the west.
No, it's entirely along the entire Kissin Brook boundary. We tried to,
20 feet or greater.
correct, from our asphalt to the wetland.
Yeah. And again, that, for the record again, Neil Marks, and that will be landscaped. So we're not taking any grassed areas out right now, but we'll install them with a real, with what would be like a real shoulder to the parking area. Right now, it just, as I say, it's not paved, it's really gravel, but it's pretty impervious because it's been rolled, and we parked some heavy equipment on there, and we don't want the trucks to sink. So if you went out there, you'd say, this looks like a lousy paving job, but it has never been paved. It's just been filled and rolled over the years, and it's been topped off every, once every 10 years, they come and they patch the depressions. So that's the existing condition.
Existing maintained parking area.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Masood?
Dinah Steer made the suggestion that you've got guidance of 20 feet as a separating distance from parking lot to wetlands from this agency in the previous go-round?
Yes, in fact, I think it was you that had suggested a 10 to 20 foot buffer be maintained between our parking and the wetlands boundary.
Do you know an average buffer downstream, upstream from other buildings?
I know the neighbor is probably better than Dinah says. If you walk along the Kissin Brook, and again, a lot of it's going to be under pavement, you'll find that there is literally no buffers maintained to the Kissin Brook at the moment.
Sports Authority,
Behind the Sports Authority,
the detention basin?
yeah, yeah,
can offer an aerial view.
yeah, we'll get that for you. Yeah, it's better if we actually show you and try to describe it. There is some, when you say buffer, there's some area behind the Sports Authority that was never developed. I mean, it's woods, it's part of the state, a lot of that state property behind the Sports Authority.
Okay, well, a separating distance, impervious versus pervious surface. I mean, that's what a
But our plan here,
for an
since,
upland review area, is or tries to be.
the plan here was since basically there was no attempt to establish a buffer over the last 60 years, and basically we are using with impervious material right up to the wetlands as they currently exist, that we would upgrade that with a real buffer, and that's what we would propose.
Sure, I appreciate your efforts to do that and fully understand what you're suggesting in terms of the site being largely an uncontrolled development, over the years, and attempting to make it better, certainly.
Our hope is. Thanks.
The area, the off-site, not off-site, the adjacent piece on the east side of the river, of the brook. Yeah,
That would either be the north side or the west side based on the,
okay, well, that area that you've been attempting to access.
yes.
It's not shaded in on this, showing the existing conditions map, so that is now what, impervious, pervious?
You know, we've got
Mentioned that
some
use of
soil
parking
tests
and
over there. That was a filled area. The Danbury, was filled, again, 70 years ago or 60 years ago. It was filled by the Leahy organization for parking for the fair. That was all a swamp back there, and they kept filling and filling over the last 30 years that they ran the fair, which closed down now in the early 80s, approximately about 1980. If you go there now, you'll just see a lot of invasive species, Phragmites. Henry Moeller has a report. Did you read his report? He tells you, should be part of the file here. The Moeller report, February 10th, 2006, he talks about the whole site having been filled.
But it's not paved.
No, it's not
now.
paved. No,
It's in a fill with a relatively impervious coverage.
No, I would say the top layer is a little pervious because it's a grass. You know, it's grown. It's weeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think if you get below that, you're going to find it's all filled material because it was filled a long time.
But it's not impervious.
No, it's not impervious according to the characterization of the land is best referred to in the Moeller report. He says that it's UD.
Udorthin.
Udorthins, yes.
Okay.
Which he says is made land.
Okay. So shouldn't that plan to the right then show that as colored green and in terms of an indication of what? If you're going to compare impervious surface to non-impervious surface, and just, I'm not, quibbling with your coloring,
Yep.
but is there a, have you, what's the representation or the characterization if that area is in fact, again, in a wild state or a somewhat natural state or a non-impervious state? What is the comparison between what's proposed as natural pervious areas as opposed to what exists now?
Okay.
Is the
Fair
basis of the question.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the way I would characterize it is undeveloped land.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
It's clearly undeveloped, overgrown. Up until about 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't even attempt to mow it or maintain it, but...
And that's what you pretty much have on this site. It's either utilized for, for
Completely
the,
developed or undeveloped.
or undeveloped, right. There's really kind of no in between. And again, I'm just trying to get at what that ratio is.
Okay. We'll get that. And again, obviously, the development plan is to put in a building and then to develop a real buffer area around it, which is shown on this drawing.
Sure.
It's the green and the white in between. But you're right, the section over there was not colored because it's completely undeveloped as it is. But we'll color code it so it coordinates.
Well, again, I just want to, if you're going to do illustrations, just want to, compare apples to apples, so to speak.
Okay, we'll do.
And thirdly, the treatment train for stormwater runoff, could you just quickly review that? I hear catch basins, deep sumps, underground detention, more for quantity, I assume more for quantity rather than quality. And then I hear, swirl concentrators and then discharge into the river?
Correct. Again,
Please just state your name again.
Dinas Verbicus, Artel Engineering. Once again, the existing conditions, everything just flows off. If we're going to call a treatment train, then basically it would consist of deep sump catch basins to capture the water, and then everything is routed through one of 3 vortechnic units on the parcels. The vortechnic units will settle out the silts and sediments and the floatable debris prior to discharging into the brook. And our discharge from the south side of the site is directly into the brook. We're proposing our discharges from the north side of the site, some of it directly into the brook, and some of these lower lying areas, proposed lower lying areas, actually to flow through a gravel swale prior, and then through grass or landscape prior to flowing overland into the brook. As far as the treatment train, it's not a long train, but it's a train just the same. And you're right with the stormwater detention systems. They're not necessarily for removal of pollutants, although I imagine some removal will occur in the infiltration into the ground. But again, they're mostly designed to control the rate, not the quality.
And you've performed a pollutant analysis?
Actually, we'll submit that or make sure you have that prior to, again, what I imagine would be the continuation of the hearing.
Okay, my comment with regards to then what you're proposing right now is that the swirl, the oil grit separators, the swirl concentrators are considered as a secondary treatment. So at this point, you are treating the site with all secondary treatment methodologies as opposed to, and according to the Connecticut Stormwater Manual, as opposed to any primary treatment methodologies, and that could be a little bit of a cause for concern. I guess I'd like you to explore, while you're doing that analysis, the inclusion of, or look at and discuss inclusion of some more primary, what the state would consider to be primary treatment.
Mark, on that issue again, Neil Marcus, for the record, you might recall, I think you were actually chair of the commission when the City of Danbury came in with a project on the Danbury Airport to do a major drainage project, probably 8 to 10 years ago. And at that time, basically that's the discharge into the Kisson Brook. I mean, the bulk of the drainage that's going into the Kisson Brook is from the City of Danbury, believe it or not, from the airport. The rest of the major discharge is from the state of Connecticut, the highway ramps. We will take a look at what you approved, and we will guarantee you that we will meet or exceed the requirements of this commission for the attenuation of stormwater as required for the City of Danbury and the state of Connecticut. Because we know we can do that, because they don't have any of this, any of these swirl separators that we're aware of. We'll go back and look. But we'll take a look, and we'd ask the commission to do that. Maybe Dan can take a look at what you required the City of Danbury to do, because quite honestly, this is, we're like a fly in an elephant. The elephant is the airport and the ramps. That's the main discharge into this Kisson Brook. Our discharge from this site is de minimis. We will have a higher quality from our treatment than you're currently getting from your own city in your own state. But we'll make sure that that's the case, because that kind of sets the standard to discharge, I think, into the brook. I think you got to, I agree with you that we've got to find a standard first and then meet or exceed it, and we'll do that.
Yeah, and we'll certainly keep in consideration what's going on in the rest of the site. It actually might be helpful if you have something or can show maybe a generalized watershed, immediate watershed map that gives us some idea of what the inputs are along the lines of what you're suggesting.
I think you have that in the airport application.
We may.
Because that was a much bigger project, and it's not that old, and the watershed really hasn't changed. I mean, what's there is there. We'll take a look, and we'll see what we can pull out. your own files for you. But it was an application of about 8 to 10 years ago. Correct me, were you on the commission? Do you remember hearing
No,
this?
I was not. I was not. I was, 8 to 10 years ago, I was, staff. Well, I started in 1990, so if it was,
We'll look at it. Somewhere, and you know what? I'll call Paul Estefan. He'll give me the exact date. I mean, he's got that stuff etched in his memory. So I'll, among other memories that Paul has etched. Story for another night. Yeah, we'll get that information because I think that'll be helpful. Okay. Okay?
one more if I may. I actually don't recollect making a 10 or 20 foot suggestion for a buffer. I'll be happy to go back, look in the minutes and see. But at any rate, the building to it looks like the buildings are up against that, what I'm presuming is that 20-foot buffer. Well, more to the north there, yeah.
Yes.
And is there provisions for access around the buildings, or am I just, seeing it from afar and not seeing that?
Again,
Back here.
there's a, I guess a patio.
That's a patio. It's a
Patio?
To the rear of the building and
So the building is what, in fact, what butts up against the buffer?
Yes, what we're actually going to try to do, believe it or not, is to create a river walk. So that if you're sitting in this restaurant and it's nice weather and they open up their patio here, even though quite honestly, it'll be a stretch to bring the Kissing Brook up to a river, but the boundary in here will be landscaped so that it'll have some appeal when you're sitting out here to do outdoor dining. Otherwise, you're sitting out here basically looking at cars, looking at the mall. I mean, you got to buffer it if you're going to put a patio back there, and that's what we're talking about. So
And
it's
that's not
going to be
actually as far-fetched an idea, because in the work that I've done in that area when I worked for the city, actually it can be a quite nice little microscopic environmental area, and it's not as trashed as, well, as you might think.
Today, if you were in this spot, you'd be looking at a parking lot for some old equipment.
Right.
And that's what you'd be
Right.
looking at. Yeah, well, I assume that Mark is suggesting, and I guess is the rest of the commission of the same mind, that we should look at doing an enhancement plan along the river bank here to, just some landscaping? Yeah, we'll do that.
So you do have the building that butts up against in that corner against a landscape buffer, and how realistic is that? Does there not need to be some clearance around the building for whatever?
No, we would actually do foundation planting as part of this. You'd have a foundation planting bed here, and then.
So in other words, it would be like lawn, probably.
Yeah, lawn or
Around the
pachysandra more likely, something that doesn't need a lot of maintenance. Growth. But, yeah, we would landscape up to this patio and then increase probably the size of the height of the screen as you got further out towards the actual brook itself. And we'll come up with something. I mean, clearly, by the way, the proposal here for this shopping mall, if it gets, the shopping plaza, I should say, if and when it gets built, will be very upscale. So to the extent that you're going to put an upscale tenant in here, they're going to require a higher degree of landscaping than probably you would. I mean, anything we do.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No front made. No, but the fact of the matter is that anything we do today would be an improvement over what's there. But a tenant is going to want to see, gardens if they're going to have a patio out here. So we'll accommodate that. We'll come up. We'll show you what that's going to look like.
Commissioner Masood, is that it?
Mr. Chairman, just 2 quick points. Maybe Dinus can clarify. You had mentioned the only direct impacts to the wetlands are the 2 discharge points. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have that right. And the other point that, to follow up on Mr. Masood and Commissioner Lee's point, in terms of the impervious surface, you would use 6.5 acres and 6 acres, you had stated. So That's a 20,000 square foot net loss of impervious surface?
Well, it's, yes. Yes, if you go actual asphalt to asphalt and building top to building top, the existing number is 5.7 acres, but this 8/10 of an acre in the back, that's all the tailings and such, although I didn't count it as actual impervious because it's not. And Dinus Verbicus, we didn't count the tailings and such as asphalt because it's not truly asphalt, but for all
That
intents
would
and
that would
purposes,
even
it's a parking area.
increase it.
So yeah, we'd be
Right.
decreasing.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying.
We'll give you that calculation. We'll do that.
Yeah, if it's impervious, even though it's not paved, it ought to be counted as impervious, and
It is. Yeah, We'll do that. We'll put that in. That makes sense.
No further questions?
How's the covering mitigation or the loss or
Well,
on the site?
we don't intend to lose any wetlands. We're not going to touch the wetlands. What we're going to do is in the upland buffer, we're going to mitigate by doing a landscape plan that improves, and the other mitigation is we're going to do a stormwater treatment plan that will, as I say, meet the standard that we think this commission has established through prior approvals for discharges into the Kisson Brook, which are not on this site today. I mean, as Donna said, it's rudimentary. You got some catch basins, and they discharge into the brook. There's been no attempt over the years to pre-treat the discharge, and we're going to do that. I mean, that's all mitigation. I mean, basically, there will be, if this goes according to plan, there will be no direct loss of any wetlands. We're not going to do it. And you know why? I mean, honestly, those wetlands were lost 50 or 60 years ago. I mean, they're a long time gone. As, in fact, was the whole Danbury Fair Mall. I mean, that was all one swamp, 60 years ago.
Any further questions? I'd like to open it up to the public.
Okay, if I can just, can I just finish and rest real quickly? Mr. Mills, Bill, you asked about flood storage. I just want to comment on that. Our goal, and we will meet that goal, is to have no reduction in flood storage because we can't in reality. We're in a floodplain. We have to balance. Interestingly enough, this site on the northwesterly corner of the Kisson Brook here has never, ever flooded in the last 50 years. We have not observed any significant standing water. Part of that, by the way, is the fact that over the years, the elevations on that site have been changed, again, by the City of Danbury when Bacchus Avenue was rebuilt. They changed the grading between Park Avenue and Bacchus Avenue significantly. Park Avenue used to be a lot higher, Bacchus Avenue used to be a lot lower, and for the mall, they leveled that out, again, cut and fill. So Bacchus Avenue in this area came up, and therefore the site on, the area to the side of it, which would be this site, was changed probably 25 years ago, 30 years ago, when they rebuilt Bacchus Avenue. So this site, even though you're worried about flooding, it doesn't flood. It didn't, all these major storms of this last year, I mean, where we really looked at it hard, no standing water. I mean, the water, even in the Kisson Brook itself, never got above the bank of the Kisson Brook. So we'll be cognizant of that, but again, it's almost more of an academic and theoretical concern than a real concern based on the history of the site. It just doesn't flood. And by the way, it didn't even flood significantly in '55, which was a 500-year storm. But that's just on that. The other issue is, I think what I'd like to do is go back to your letter, Bernie, of July 9th, 2007. The prior application was denied allegedly for reasons. It's interesting. I didn't hear these the night we were here. I remember that John made a motion to approve, and it was ipso facto denied because the motion to approve didn't pass. But the reasons that were discussed by the commission previously were filled in on the letter here, and I think we've tried to address them.
Okay, you're speaking of a previous
On the previous. So
application now.
again, one of the things we had to do, you gave us 5 bullet points, and we tried to address each and every one of those, which is the mitigation plan, the stormwater mitigation, the alternative analysis, which we've discussed. Again, culvert versus bridge crossing. We've gone through that previously. The prudent and feasible alternative to the crossing, again, that's a culvert versus a bridge.
You've addressed all of that.
Yeah, we think we've addressed all that. And as to an incomplete application, again, I think it was incomplete because we didn't have a site plan.
We can't.
Is it, should we not be discussing that?
That's all it is. Shouldn't be discussing a previous application, just this one.
But I think in any event, when a commission makes a decision, we have to address the reasons for that decision. You have to. I mean, otherwise, life doesn't exist in a vacuum. But what we've done is we've done intentionally, we've tried to address each and every one. What I was going to suggest is, you feel that we've missed anything, tell us, and we'll try to, we got the information that you've requested to maybe flush out some more detail. We'll do that. But if you think we've missed any of these points completely, let me know.
Yeah, Corporation Council just said we have to deal with the applications before us,
Yeah.
not the prior.
No, I agree with that, but again, we try to learn from our prior applications. If those are a problem, we try to correct them. So that's what we've done here. Thank you.
Anyone from the public wishing to address this issue? Lynn Waller? Please sign in too, okay?
Lynn Waller, 83 Highland Avenue, Danbury. I really only have 2 questions. Also wanted to see the plan. Okay, curiosity. Through all of this, I haven't heard anything about snow, salt, or sand, and how will that affect anything? When snow comes down in 12 to 24 inches, it's piled up and it slowly releases. But using salt and sand in parking lots for shopping centers, it could affect what's going into the brook. And I'm also curious whether this is going to add any flooding to the airport, or whether the airport is going to back up and flood this site. So, thank you very much. I'm not against the application.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to address this application? If not, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public.
There's in public comment, we'd like to briefly rebut. I'd like to try to answer 2 questions.
Can we just bring it up the next time?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Staff?
For the record, Dan LaRue. Just wanted to call the Commission's attention to the report from Dr. Danzer that was in your packet tonight. And in there, he explains and tries to classify that parcel B, and he does not agree with Henry Moeller. And he's basically calling it out as a Eudorthan's wet or an Aquin's soil. And under that, there's also poorly drained Walpole soils. So I would just call your attention to that report and review. And also attached to it are photographs showing parcel B underwater April 14th, 07 during the nor'easter. And also portions of the parking lot of Marcus Dairy, rear parking lot, flooded with water well beyond the banks of the Kissen Brook.
Mr. Chairman. Guys, asked to do the applicant. Your next meeting. if they could have their plan, again, of snow removal for the parking lot, with conditions. And
I
again,
don't want an explanation now to the chairman saying, but if you could have in writing your snow removal procedures for the parking lot, and also, could I have some type of map, it doesn't have to be to scale, maybe a smaller, 8.5 by 11 to show the entire site, but to clearly show where the 100-year flood line is, and some type of map so we could see that for our next meeting?
A map of the entire site is really in front of you right
It doesn't
there.
have to be that size of scale, if you want to do that size scale, but clearly marking where the 100-year flood is compared to your project, the way you're building it now.
It's on there, but you just can't see it too well. Delineation of 100-year flood.
and then your procedures for snow removal from the site.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that's...
Well, I don't want you to comment on that,
yeah.
please.
We're going to do it like we do now. I mean, it's not as if the site doesn't get sanded and salted. It's a truck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's a restaurant. People come in every day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Through the chair, apparently we have a difference of opinion. I'd like to have a clarification. Dr. Danzer has considered his interpretation of parcel B, that it's floodplain soil. So if you could have Mr. Moeller maybe go out and do some borings and see if we can come up with an agreement prior to the next meeting.
I may bring him here and have him explain it to you, and you can bring Dr. Danzer, we can discuss it, because, I mean, again, they're the soil scientists, they've each done their cores, we'll have them compare their notes. But we'll ask them to be in attendance. Thank you. Actually, you know what, I'm going to suggest, with your permission, that maybe Moeller and Danzer talk between them and see whether they can agree on what their conclusions are. Thanks.
Chairman, I make a motion to continue this regular activity number 762 to our next regular schedule.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table regular activity 762 until our regular scheduled meeting September 26th. There's no meeting on the 12th. Any remarks on this motion? All those in favor, vote usual way.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
What was the date again?
For 26th September, because the 12th is a holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 20 Southern Boulevard, Mineral Road, regular activity 755. We have a report in front of us.
Director Danbury Health Department. We have in your packet is a draft decision or motion to approve.
Report, remarks on the report.
I just have one. Has the applicant had a chance to review the draft decision to approve?
No, it's a draft for the commission. There's also conditions of approval on the end.
Right, I saw the conditions of approval